Since Madden 24 came out in the middle of August of 2023, I played this game pretty much every single day. I am not proud of that, and in fact, I have a ridiculous amount of time spent on this game. If you don't believe me, this is my time spent, 268 days. Now, obviously, this is a lot of it is my Xbox being on, but for it to be on this much, it means I spent a ton of time on this game. So I wanted to talk about 5 things that I believe really need to get fixed going from Madden 24 into Madden 25, and these things also do apply loosely to College Football 25 as well, of course. And these are going to be things I think are very essential to gameplay. I'm very big on having a large skill gap, so skillful things in gameplay. And on top of that, a very functional game. Those are my 2 things. People always ask me, Civil, do you like this? Or Civil, is this a good game? Is this a bad game? Whatever, whatever. I think the game should change year to year. I think the game should be skillful in various ways, like freeform passing is a good example of this. And the game has to be functional. Like it literally has to work, which has been an issue in years past, which brings me to my very first point of slants and other certain in-breaking routes need to run their route all the way. Right now, if you put an in route on the field or if you put a slant, especially it's noticeable with these, you have a very high percentage of it just stopping randomly at some point. And for some reason, at the beginning of the year, this was people were trying to say, oh, this is their real football kicking in where they're sitting in the soft spot of the zone. That's not what it is. Just so we're all on the same page. You can go against man coverage, run a slant, and he will randomly just stop 5 yards into his route. It is not him sitting in the soft spot. All of those routes are built into the game and they're stock. This is the game being broken. It cannot do this. Slants are a very essential part of Madden offenses. In routes, this also happens too, just to a lesser degree. This is a very essential part of Madden offense. And the fact that it happened the entire year is effing insane. Like, actually, it's bonkers because these are, again, fundamental routes to playing Madden that would just stop. And I don't understand. I really actually don't get this. Like, it didn't happen to drags. It didn't happen to corner routes or like hot routed post routes. It was slants. It'd be in sometimes. And the other thing with this too is sometimes like the routes just like go off on their own. And what I mean by that is I've had numerous times like you'll see a lot of in breaking routes do this actually. Like Texas routes will do it, slants will do it, and I've seen drags do this too, where they'll just like get slightly bumped and then they'll run like 15 yards further downfield. The amount of times I've had a drag, which is a 2 yard route, a 1 yard route that goes like this, go like this down the field. I'm like, what are we doing? That I think just, man, that's a functionality thing that has to get fixed because it's so, I just think it's so annoying. It leads to so many rage things. I've seen it cost people money in tournament games. And man, it's again, it's just a fun, like it's a very fundamental way to build offenses, slants and ins. That's not crazy, right? Now, the next thing I want to talk about actually goes a little bit into Mutt, and is that I believe the ability system right now, the way it's set up and the way it's been for a few years, man, I think it's just too complicated, bro. And maybe I'm alone on this. Like, it's tough because I love they are putting out a lot of content in Mutt. I think that's awesome. I think though the ability system is so hard to keep up with and to follow that it almost just becomes a jumbled mess. Where as someone who plays this game a lot, although I'm not a Mutt guy, I play Mutt because that's where the highest level of gameplay is. But I mean I can't keep up with all the different abilities and all of the different. A lot of them do things they don't say, and they say things they don't do, and it's like it to me it's so confusing. And then knowing which players get discounts is bonkers. You actually have no idea what player gets a discount unless you look at that player. Now, archetypes do play a factor early in the year, but as the year goes on and we get closer to endgame, and it's obviously ridiculous right now, this player randomly gets 0 AP Enforcer, while this player gets 0 AP Lurk Artist, and this player gets 0 AP Homer, and it's like, you actually have to know individual specific players, which I I just believe I'm very much of the mindset of keeping things as stupid as possible. I'm a very dumb human being. I struggle understanding lots of stuff. And so if that's the case, I should like the purpose like EA needs to dumb it down so everybody can understand because I put way more time into the game than anybody else and I struggle with this. So I can't imagine what the dad coming home from his job trying to play Mutt thinks of it because like he can't do anything and then your abilities play such a large factor into this into gameplay that you're at a huge disadvantage and you think the game sucks, but in reality, you just don't understand the ability system because it's so complicated. It's tough. And building off of this, my next point is that I think MUT Ultimate Team and regular gameplay is so vastly different. And it's so different to where I feel like it's so polarizing to go between the two. And I think that's only bad. It only creates a giant, giant disconnect between them, right? And I'm especially biased to this because I teach people how to play the game. I've played the game at a high level for a while, and being able to teach people it sucks because the game modes require such differences. Now, should the game modes be different? 100% yes. But the idea that 6-1 is a very I'm getting spammed party invites right now by somebody. I'm turning my Xbox to mute or to do not disturb. Why are you spamming? I don't know who you are. Nonetheless, um, the idea that 3-4 odd and 6-1 and any base defense in Ultimate Team can be incredibly good because you can have work artists. And in regular teams, in regs, you literally cannot run those formations if you're playing anybody with half a thumb and half a brain passing the ball. That is crazy, right? Like, that is fucking nuts. It's that different. And then there is a big difference along with that, with like route chems and stuff like that, which that's a little bit more like, okay, sure, I guess. Like, I can get behind that. But fundamentally, on defense, I can have the best defense in the world in MUT, and then have the worst defense in the world in regs, running the exact same plays, all because a work artist just isn't a thing in regs. We have to find a way to make these game modes not the same. They should never be the same, but they should be more similar. And I do believe actually that college football is going to make some steps towards that with the new ability system because they're less guarantees and more suggested outcomes. But Madden wise, and just in general, we have to see that, man, because it's crazy. It really is. If you're somebody who's only played one of those game modes, go play the other one. Because one, for what it's worth, it's so different. You might find it maybe even incredibly refreshing, maybe. I don't know. I just hate how different it is, man. And that might be a biased take for me because of just what I like everything I do. But man, I'd be shocked if other people didn't feel the same way because it's crazy to me how different they are. This is a hyper specific issue, but something that I feel strongly about is that curl flats, the purple zone that you can hot route and that comes in like stock cover 3 sky and stuff like that. These things are the worst things on the field typically. Like, legitimately, there is not a zone that plays worse than that. And the amount of times that a curl flat, I don't care if there's a curl on the field. I'm so cool with the curl flat. I'm going to play the curl, sure, but it is a flat, and when there's nothing else in the middle of the field and it gets outflanked, meaning it gives up the sideline to a drag or to a flat or to a corner route. It is the most infuriating thing ever, dude. You can have a 5-yard curl flat, have a drag run across, it'll cross its face, and the curl flat will try chasing it from behind. It's like, dude, I need you to play better. Now, an easy counter for this then, because some people are like okay with this, is if you're okay with it, then the zone drop flat needs to only apply to cloud flats and not apply to hard flats. That way I can have a 30-yard cloud flat and then a hard flat on the field, right? Because right now to have a 30-yard cloud flat, to have anything underneath it, you need a curl flat set to 0 or 5, and he doesn't play the sideline, right? And if you have a 25-yard curl flat, okay, let's say you go that route, the curl flat does not get to the sideline so we can get outflanked by corner routes. Like, he'll just let up the corner route to the outside. Like, what are we doing? Right? I think that's such a massive thing that needs to get fixed. And I don't care if there's manipulation with it, if there's routes on the inside of it because it's a curl flat. Maybe it's first responsibility is kind of that seam area and then working out. But damn, is it bad right now? Like, they are bad. They've been bad for a while, I feel like. Now, this one is my most controversial take by far. I think a lot of people will disagree with this, especially competitively. A lot of pro players will. But the only way that we get rid of the dollar meta or the light, right, like 8 DBs meta, what insert XYZ formation, is by bringing back the Madden 20 audibling system and the Madden 20 weak box system. And if you guys don't know what this was, a Madden 20, if you came out with 8 DBs on the field, or you came out, and I think it was a 7 DB set actually, so dollar, and I had heavier personnel, so I had 2 tight ends or I had 2 running backs in the game, your defense would run slower. Now, this is not realistic. I understand that, right? The other solution they have is that everybody gets pancaked. That also isn't realistic. I think that that one's worse. I love this as a solution because if you implement the audibling system as well, the defense can see what personnel the offense is coming out in, and the old audibling system would not let you go from gun bunch with 3 tight ends to I form tight, right? Or single back wing tight, right? You would have to match the personnel on offense of what you audible to with the personnel that that formation originally has. So even gun bunch with 2 tight ends, you could audible to trips, but you could not audible to single back wing slot. Which is what happened in Madden 21, which really exploited that weak box system. I think Madden 20 killed it. If you did not want to go up against Dollar or 146 in Madden 20, you did not have to. But you sacrificed speed, athleticism, and all that stuff on the field, which I think was really fair and really good. That is how we get out of this consistent dollar meta. Every single year, there's a dollar meta, there's 146, well, whatever the meta is with all these DBs. That's how you get out of it, right? But I think also with that, though, linebackers do need to be better as well then. Linebackers need to be able to animate and jump in coverage a little bit without lurk artist. But by bringing back the Madden 20 weak box system and audibling system, it's important that they get brought back together for this to work correctly. You are going to be able to kill the dollar meta if the player on offense chooses to do so. And if the player on offense chooses to do so, the player on defense then has the ability to just call a different defense to counter the offense because you can see what formation the offense is coming out in before you choose your defense. That might be kind of complicated, but I promise you that works, and that's what made well, that's not what made Madden 20 good, but that is one of the cool things about Madden 20 that I remember that I just missed so much. That's how you kill it. Some people are gonna be like, "Oh, Civil, what if they improved the blocking logic and all that?" I don't think people realize how hard it is to code offensive line picking up a looping user. I don't think you realize that, right? Maybe slot corners, stuff like that, sure. But the user is such a powerful tool on defense that no amount of coding is ever going to be able to consistently pick up. Is miserable because you got to think if you're running an outside zone to the right side, right? Let's say stretch outside zone, run to the right side, and the user's on the left side and he loops around. First of all, that's a terrible run call, by the way. Against if you knew the user's going to loop, same with real life, it'd be the same idea. You'll just never make that block because the way that the user loops is that he comes from down by the line of scrimmage. The offense, like, man, you just it's unrealistic to make that block. And EA's just proven they can't code it correctly. And I actually don't think it's possible. Just if you actually watch somebody good in dollar loop in the run game, right? Watch some of my gameplays where I'm running dollar and I play against under center people. I loop. There's no way I get blocked. It's almost impossible. I think that's the easiest fix. They've had it before in the game. They can add it back. I think it would change the game so drastically as well. If you guys enjoyed this style of video, let me know and hit the subscribe button. It is free. It helps me out as a creator below. And let me know what you would like to see fixed from Madden 24 to Madden 25.